Thanks, Glenn, and a big thank you for everyone for coming along tonight. This is certainly a very strong show of support and loyalty for the supporters after a really, really tough year for you to be rolling up. I know I've been chatting, as Glenn said, to quite a few of you over the last few months, and for many of the supporters that aren't here tonight. And quite clearly, this has been a season that has been a disappointment. It's been a difficult season at times where it's certainly been frustrating, and there's been plenty of occasions, I'm sure, where you felt angry watching the way we've played or seen the results. And as Glenn said, I want you to rest assured that everyone at the club felt the same emotions, that same frustration, that same disappointment at times, and the same hurt as we have been in the season. It hasn't gone to plan. We'll see some of the very specific reasons why it's unfolded like that. But in many ways, the challenge now for us as a whole club is to take that hurt, the hurt that's in the pit of your stomach, and we've talked to the player group about this and the coaches, and to actually turn that hurt in the pit of your stomach into the fire in the pit of your belly to actually prepare us for 2020 as a season. This is a challenge that the players and coaches have already taken on. We're back into the pre-season. I don't know if anyone's been seeing online or been down to training, but pretty well we've got a healthy list. Many of the players have come back way earlier than what we had asked for. The majority, very different to last year, have come back fit and raring to go, and in many ways are looking to redeem themselves individually and as a player group, and as a result of seasons that they were so disappointed in. But as a club, and as a great club, we're in this together, as Glenn said. You being here in such large numbers is a sign of that club unity. We are a club, and I think everyone would agree with this in the conversations that I've had with you, even during the season and post-season after these disappointing results. I think one thing we ultimately agree on, this is a club full of great young talent on and off the field. But in many ways, we haven't lost that talent. I think that's the most important thing. As we look towards 2020, we still have that same talent. But this year has highlighted that we play in a ruthless, brutal and elite competition, a competition that punishes you when you don't get it right. Having the talent is not enough, and we saw that this year. We need to have our very best people out on the field, fit and prepared and playing at their best. Otherwise, we'll pay a price that we paid this year. You will have noticed this year that we signed Simon Goodwin and many of our key players to longer-term contracts to provide certainty and stability to our football program. We will continue to invest in players, resources and quality support staff to surround this core talent group and give them every chance to reach their potential over the next 4 to 5 year period. A potential that we, as a group of club leaders, strongly believe has the ability to deliver on our club's goals, ambitions and dreams. And we know that those ambitions and dreams we share with you as a group. In a few moments, Josh Marnie, our General Manager of Football, will present to you the outcome of a 2-part review that was conducted on our AFL program. As you remember, part of that review started halfway through the year when it was obvious that we were having difficulties and things weren't going to plan. And he will present on what were the learnings, what were the outcomes, and how are we going to respond to it as a club. But I want to reassure you as members that the review process has been a professional and thorough process that has involved the players, all of the players, coaches, football staff, external experts, including the AFL's game analysis and strategy teams, and research consultants, Gameline Analytics, who have provided us our industry and AFL benchmarking and insights. This process reviewed and benchmarked the entire aspect of our football program. And I know at the time, in the mid-year and post-season, we've touched on some of the broader elements of that program, but you're certainly going to see that in greater detail tonight. We identified the key opportunities for growth and improvement. Each area was specifically addressed and acted upon, and you'll see those outcomes in a moment. But tonight is about you. It's about your club being accountable and transparent. It's about giving you the opportunity to hear from your leaders and ask whatever questions that you want so that you can go into the 220 season knowing that we've done everything possible to be the best that we can be. But prior to tonight, I ask you as a group to send through some of the areas that you would like us to cover in our presentations, and I'd like to cover off some of those. Many will be covered off in Josh and Simon's presentation, but some of them won't be captured within the football review. And I want to start with our home base. Certainly been a topic of discussion for quite a long period of time. Most of you would know that our football department is at Amy Park and our administration is in several points within the MCG. We've said it before and I state it again, our vision is to bring together the entire club for the first time in recent history based within the MCG local precinct. I don't think there'd be a single person in the room, which is amazing, that would have ever experienced Melbourne as a club, the football program, the administration and a social club as a meeting hub as one club, like every other AFL club in the competition is experiencing right at the moment. We need to provide our men and women's teams with the same elite training facilities that every other club experiences, and the teams that we compete against every time we go out onto the ground, the facilities the opposition enjoy. We need to create a members' social club within walking distance of the MCG. We've talked about this before, but at this stage what I wanted to do was update you, and a lot of the questions were where are we at with the facility. Currently we have a working party, a feasibility group that is funded by the state government, Department of Sport and Rec, in conjunction with the AFL and the Melbourne Football Club, exploring all the possible locations within the MCG sporting precinct. Now that's something that, as I mentioned before, is funded by the government. We're working on a weekly basis, one of the highest priorities of my job. Like I said, this is something that it's a complex exercise. Every location we're looking at, I can tell you now, have 5 or 6 stakeholder groups, government departments that have an interest and a say over the top of those precincts. But it's something that is important to the club and will shape us as a club for the next 50 to 60 years. So again, you need to trust that we will update you as a members group as soon as we can, but we can't have a running commentary on this from a government perspective, and it certainly wouldn't be in our best interests. Another part of our facilities is our training ground, and that was another topic that several of you raised in the lead up to tonight. And as part of that government feasibility exercise is to be exploring the ground as well. And the government and the AFL understand that a key part of our home base is that we need an AFL standard oval within the precinct of that base as well. And that does make a difference of what sites are more appropriate than others. The third part to our facilities, and another area that's close to all of our hearts, is where we are right at the moment, the MCG. Key pillar of this club. The MCG continues and will always be our heart and soul. It's our birthplace. It's the venues where we play our home games. This year we'll play 10 home games at the MCG. First time in 10 years. As a direct result of the feedback that members gave the club that where possible, we want the Northern Territory home games returned. And this year it was appropriate to return 1. The Darwin game is a game that we'd been playing for 10 years. We also play in Alice Springs, a game that's in our development zone. Right at the moment, I think there was a bit of talk, and some of the feedback was this something that the AFL forced us into a situation to bring that game back? I can guarantee you that if Melbourne wanted to continue to play in Darwin, even if Gold Coast was allocated that as a recruiting zone, certainly wasn't our recruiting zone before that. That was a whole separate agreement. So it was something that we drove on your behalf to bring that game back, 10 games. And I can see that as we grow the club, if we're able to grow our crowds that want to come along and watch us play a great game of footy in a style and winning games, and we can build our average crowds, if we can grow our membership, including the MCC membership, where many of you will be MCC members. We need our MCC members to also be the Melbourne members. If we can get to that point, the fact that we're playing in Alice Springs because it's financially very important to the club, the return that we get, I can see in the future potentially that game coming back and us playing all our games at the MCG. But we've got to pick the right time. We don't want to be bringing that game back unless it can be at the MCG. And the fourth part of our facilities, another critically important part to this, is Casey Fields. And Casey Fields, I'm sure a lot of you haven't been out to Casey Fields to see our facility out there, but it's worth a trip. Please come out at some stage to either watch training or to watch our AFLW team play. We're in conjunction with the state government investing $8 million in the facilities out there, be a state-of-the-art facility. And it's an elite size and quality ground that our men and women teams do pre-season and train on. Our women play their home games. The $8 million is being spent improving the training oval and the training facilities, but also the AFLW change rooms and our high-performance gym out there. It's a very important facility because no matter what we do in the inner city precinct of Melbourne, we need to have a facility that we can play AFLW games on. We can take the load off of Gosh's paddock at times in pre-season or during winter where we're feeling like we could be stressing the oval, to actually have another site, which we do on appropriate times, is to take our programs out to another oval. Critically important. So even if you haven't been there, know that Casey Fields is a very important part of our future facilities. The financial results, and I think looking around the room here, people that have been long-term supporters of the club, we get the connection between the financial results and on-field performance. And I don't have to remind you that it has been a tough year. Crowds have been down. Our membership, while we broke a membership record to start the year, membership certainly slowed up, 5 or 6 weeks into the season. I'm not in a position tonight to go into the specifics of our financials, only because they need to be, there's a process, those numbers need to come through the AFL, they need to be audited by our auditors, they need to be presented to the board and signed off, and then we announce those financial results, and that'll play out post the next board meeting, and I would suggest in the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll be able to announce the specifics. But what I can tell you here tonight is we won't be announcing a profit. But I think the important part of that, while we'll announce the number in the next couple of weeks, we won't be announcing a profit for all the reasons that I discussed there. But I think it's very important, and a reflection of where this club is at the moment, is that the entire financial shortfall will be covered by cash reserves. And that's something that the board has been doing a lot of work over a lot of time to make sure that we do have those cash reserves, so that if we do have periods of on-field success where we're not delivering and we're not playing in finals and we're not winning 12 or 13 games and potentially our crowds are down, we're actually now in a financial position not to go into further debt. So I can tell you now, when the financial result is announced, there'll be no increase to our debt and that'll be covered by our cash reserves. I'm sure even when I announced that, and I've chatted to a few of you, many of you would be expecting that result. I'm sure there's no major surprises. I know everyone here is aware this is the first year that Queen's Birthday wasn't our home game, and we all know the reasons why we need to alternate that game. That is a substantial financial impact to us every second year. It just so happened that happened in the same year that our Anzac Eve game is not a home game as well. Didn't help. Then our on-field performance didn't come up to expectations. Like I said, crowds start to drop quickly, membership grinds to a halt. And that all plays out in the same year, the first year that after selling Leoke as a gaming operation, and I think we're all very comfortable with us doing that, we also know the reality that while we put $10 million in the bank for that sale, and that gives us a real financial resilience, it also takes $1 million out of our revenue for the year. So you combine all those factors and you can see it's been a challenging year, and those financial results will be announced in the next couple of weeks. And again, so in summary, there will be a loss. It will be covered by our cash reserves, and there'll be no addition to our debt. A third part, before I hand to Josh about the football program, I received a lot of communication about our games in the Northern Territory. A lot of that feedback come through prior to us announcing that we were bringing one of the games back, but I still do want to address it because I know it is a hot topic for many of us, and I think this group here, who are the, such passionate supporters, you would understand the reasons why at the time the club needed to play 2 home games in the Northern Territory to create a financial outcome. Prior to receiving the feedback from this group here, we were probably expected to be playing another 2 games there. Like we've already announced, since that point, bringing the Darwin game back. It is a game that, while we played there for 10 years, the players really embraced it, and so did Goody and the coaches, and really wanted to see it as a home game. It's a long way to travel. It's hot, it's humid, and it can be a challenge when you return from that game. Alice Springs is quite a different proposition. It's a much shorter travel. It is a game within our development zone, and we see Alice Springs as our next generation academy. I'd love to be standing up here at some stage announcing the fact that we've been recruiting players from that next generation academy. So there is a real attachment to that. So the Alice Spring game, as I said before, remains financially important to us. We've just signed a new 4-year deal, so we'll be playing for that period of time. But as I said, if we are in different shape as a club, this is something that the board would review to say, is it an appropriate step? Is it an appropriate timing? So to look at bringing all our games back to the MCG. So hopefully that covers quite a few of the, let's call it the non-football program elements that Josh is going to cover. So again, while I'm here before the question time, I really do want to thank everyone for coming along. I know we're all busy, but for you to be showing your passion and loyalty, coming along, listening to the presenters about your club to make sure that you're comfortable, I really appreciate the gesture. And now I'd like to welcome Josh Marnie, our head of footy, to come up and take you through our reviews, not only of the men's program, but we're also going to be touching about what we're doing in reviewing our AFLW program as well. Thank you.